I am going to not only be the governor of Arizona for 4 years, I'm going to do 2 terms. I'm going to be your worst freaking nightmare for 8 years. And we will reform the media as well. We're going to make you guys into journalists again. We're going to make you guys into journalists again.
What exactly happened in yesterday's midterm elections? Well, we wish you could tell you with some precision. That's our job. But we can't because in a number of key races around the country, we still don't have a vote total. In Arizona, for example, there is no declared winner in the Senate race or in the governor's race. At this point, it seems likely that both Kari Lake and Blake Masters will win. We'll be speaking to Kari Lake in just a minute about that. But according to news reports, the official results may not be in for more than a month. A month. Officials in Arizona told CNBC today that they are, quote, prepared to work through Thanksgiving and possibly Christmas as well. That means results by New Year's in a race that was held in early November. That seems late. How late is it? Well, by comparison, the results of the 1862 midterm elections, which were tabulated by candlelight without machines or even electricity in the middle of a raging civil war, were clear before the end of the week. That was the entire country. Arizona is a single state, which, by the way, is a fraction the size of Florida, which, as you may have noticed, counted its votes in less than a day. So did Brazil, an entire country. That seems embarrassing, if not like a full-blown emergency. Counting the votes isn't some added extra you get for government. If they have a surplus, like fighting climate change or bringing equity, counting the votes is a core function of government, along with law enforcement, maintaining the roads, keeping the border secure. Efficient elections are the reason you pay taxes. But Arizona doesn't seem to have them. Why is that? Don't ask, commands CNN. If you've got questions about this or any other election, no unauthorized questions. Instead, watch CNN. Or if you don't have cable, simply trust your local officials.
You see, that's our first votes, and that's the wonder of democracy, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And I wanted to point that out to be a little bit of the crank in the room following Brianna there. Stay off social media, people, if you're trying to figure out, are there really issues with votings? Trust your local officials, trust us here, trust a news source that you know and trust, to be honest about this. They're doing their jobs and they're doing it right.
They're doing their jobs, they're doing it right. Really, CNN? Can we get a little more reporting on that? How right are they doing it? It's pretty funny. We're going to go to Kari Lake, who is running for the governor of Arizona, one of the most watched races in the country. She joins us tonight. Kari Lake, thanks so much for coming on. Where do you think you are in this?
Well, I feel 100% certain I'm going to win. The question is, how big will that win be? Can you believe this, Tucker? We still have 650,000 votes that have not been counted. And guess who these voters are? They're the people who showed up on Election Day.
Right.
They're the people, 275,000 of them are people who brought their mail-in ballots to the polls on Election Day because they don't trust the mail and they don't trust the drop boxes. So guess who those voters are? They're our voters. And we're only down by a few thousand votes right now. When those votes come in, I think we're going to see a lot of liberal minds kind of blowing up.
This seems, I mean, I'm not alleging a crime, but broadly speaking, it's just criminal to screw it up this badly. Like, did anyone know this was going to happen? Are you confident that it's on the level? It's just so outrageous. What is this?
I'm not shocked at all. I mean, they've been calling me an election denier. I've been sounding the alarm on 2020 November 3rd election, which was disastrous. And we had problems in the August 2nd primary as well. And now we have the same problems. They have all this time to get this figured out. And you know where the main problems are? 20% of those machines went down, the tabulator machines. And I noticed they were primarily in Republican areas of town, Arcadia, Anthem, a lot of different areas. It was really a shame. We ended up voting in a very liberal part of town because we can choose which vote center to go to. And they said they'd had no problems. The bigger issue is we can't keep having this problem. This is what I've been trying to say. I want all Democrats, Independents, and Republicans to trust in the system. And when I win, and trust me, we will win this, this is going to be top of my agenda. Day one, I'm going to take my hand off the Bible. We're issuing a declaration of invasion at the border, and I'm getting my lawmakers, I'm getting the legislators to a special session to change our elections so that they are fair, honest, and transparent, and we get rid of those machines that are not reliable. And really, obviously, we saw what kind of problems they can cause.
Well, it's insane. If you're serious about elections, you vote on paper ballots, right? You don't use electronic voting machines. Right. France doesn't. I mean, this is, if we really wanted secure elections, we could have them, don't you think?
Yeah, you count on it. You don't have election season. You have election day, paper ballots, and you count them right there in the precinct. Harmeet talked about how they went to the vote centers a couple of years ago during COVID. We used to vote at our churches and schools in small precincts. Well, when COVID struck, we couldn't vote at churches and schools because they were shut down. It forced us into these big vote centers where it's a lot easier to have problems. We're going to go back to small precincts where it's easier to detect problems and easier to fix them. And it'll be easier to hand count votes as well. These are some of the things I'd like to see happen. I'll work with the legislature. The U.S. Constitution says our lawmakers, our state lawmakers, are the ones who are to determine our election laws, and I know we're ready to solve this problem. We're sick of being the embarrassment that Maricopa County has made us become, and we won't do another election like this.
Amen. If you care about democracy, you need to convince people it's on the level, and what happens in Maricopa County yesterday does not. Kari Lake, I appreciate it so much. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who's in charge of elections in Arizona?
A man named Stephen Richer is a big part of it in Maricopa County. And then my opponent, shocking, my opponent in the Miss I Don't Debate and I Hide in the Basement, Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State, is in charge of our elections as well. So we have two of the most incompetent people in all of government in this country running elections in Arizona. But I want the people of Arizona to know this. We're going to see this start going in my direction. And on day one, we're going to start working to reform our elections so that all voters can feel confident that we have honest elections.
Well, yeah. I mean, are you struck by how the news media keep telling us this is totally normal? It's always been this way. It's like muggings on the subway. It's always been that way. This has not always been this way, has it?
No, I mean, when I started voting in 1988, you voted, you showed up on election day, you were given a ballot, they hand counted them, and you knew who the winner was before you went to bed. I remember the first election, I mean, I've been covering elections since the 90s as a journalist in my old job, and I remember in 2000 when that election went all night and it was disputed between Gore and Bush. That was kind of the start of when we started seeing a lot more disputes and distrust in elections. This is not rocket science, Tucker. We can go back to the way we used to do it, which worked. It's a shame that my homeowners association election is far more secure and accurate than the elections we seem to have here in Arizona. And we're going to change that. And this is one of the reasons people are voting for me, and one of the reasons that I will win is the voters in Arizona are tired of shoddy elections that are run by imbeciles.
Kari, thanks so much for joining us here on Newsmax. I want to get your first off reaction to anything new that you've heard this morning. Obviously, we're getting some reports, but you're right in the inside on the thick of it. Is there anything you can share with our viewers about where this count is at this moment?
Well, they're dragging their feet and they're slow rolling the results, and they're trying to delay the inevitable. We will win this. I'm 100% sure of that. I know the ballots that are left to be counted are the ones primarily, I have them right in front of me, 621,000, almost 622,000 votes left to be counted. A good chunk of those, more than half, 384,000 are mail-in ballots that people carried to the polling place on election day to hand deliver. Those are people who don't trust the drop boxes and don't necessarily trust the postal service, and those will fall our way heavily. We estimate at the low end, those will fall 60% our way. At the high end, perhaps even over 80%. And then we also have 17,000 of those drawer 3 ballots. Those are the ones where, 70 different voting centers had shoddy machines that weren't working. This is just an embarrassment. And the people of Arizona are sick and tired of elections being run like we're in some banana republic, and we won't have it anymore. We're going to win this. Everybody in this state knows we're going to win it. I was running against a basement candidate who didn't even campaign, didn't debate, and the people didn't vote for her. There was zero excitement, and this is ridiculous. And we will, mark my words, starting on day one, begin to reform our elections so that they're fair, honest, and transparent.
Kari, I know your team, who I've been speaking with, and very concerned about the transparency. Obviously, you went to vote in a very Democratic area of Maricopa County yourself to make sure the polling was, working, things went right. How do you feel now about what is happening and that this counting is going to be done in a way that does not hurt Republicans, that it's fair, that every vote is counted in the way it was cast specifically? Do you have assurances? Is your gut telling you anything about how you think they will do this, seeing the eyes of the world and are on Maricopa County today?
I have very little faith in some of the people that are operating that Maricopa County elections. I think they're incompetent. I'm going to be real honest. That I'm always going to be honest. I think they're incompetent. But we will get through this. We have a lot of attorneys. We have poll watchers. We have people helping with the adjudication. We want to make sure this is done as fair as possible. And then we will work with state lawmakers to reform our elections. This is outrageous. People shouldn't have to wait this long for election results. It's a terrible system. It's not working, and we need to work to make it better.
Well, hopefully you may know some more information when this next drop happens at 6 o'clock tonight here. I'm in a room full of national media, but also some local media. And I want to tell you that some of the folks here are your former colleagues, and one of them couldn't give his name, but he does say hi, and they're pulling for you. What's your sense in your supporters? Your fan base is huge. We know you did some great rallies on Prescott the night before, and yeah. So how are your thoughts on people, who are looking at mainstream media and saying, well, Hobbs still has the lead? What's your message out there to folks who are big Kari Lake supporters and big?
This is it. This is why they slow roll the results. They slow roll the results. They start with the trickle out of, they always put out the early ballots first because they know that's going to skew Democrat. Of course, we have ballots floating around everywhere in Arizona, and they start to set the narrative. This is how it's done. Oh, the Democrats are winning. Then they slow the count and they stop counting, and they let it linger out there that it looks like the Democrats are winning when they aren't. They haven't counted the vote. We have closer to 700,000 ballots that haven't been counted. We waited a full day yesterday, and they counted just about 2% of the ballots. Katie Hobbs has never been in the lead. They just haven't counted the votes. And many of the votes are election day votes, which is where our people turn out. We are going to win. We're going to win handily. I think Blake still has a great shot of winning, and Mark as well. This is outrageous the way it is. They're trying to slow walk all of these election results to try to pour cold water on this movement. This movement is on fire. No amount of water, no amount of ice can slow it or cool it. It's not going anywhere. We, the people, are awake, and we're taking our government back. And I want my supporters, I want the good people of Arizona to know, Do not lose faith. We have to work through this in order to repair it, and we will do that.
Pour ceux qui veulent soutenir notre travail, les liens sont en description.
Vous n'avez pas entendu parler du Facteur?
Les nouvelles du Facteur